Hey y'all, what's up? This is Bud Elliott here on the Cover 3 opening lines, initial discussion, whatever we want to call this thing show. Last week, I think we did a couple thousand views and had a really fun time with this. So I hope everybody rolls in here, get some questions about the opening numbers for the week. We'll chop it up and figure out what we want to take, what we want to stay away from. Anything that you saw over the weekend potentially could be good to discuss. And drop the comments in when ready, and we'll kind of be getting in on this thing. One thing that the commenters in the comment section, obviously on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe, turn those notifications on if you can at the button down there. But one thing last week they told me was to not apologize for dead air since you're doing a live show by yourself. I'll try to do that this week, so I appreciate that as some constructive criticism. Here's the deal. I'm only going to discuss each game once unless y'all bring up a point or something I haven't thought about. If you ask about a game and I've already gone over it, well, guess what? Go back and watch the video, and producer Jordan will timestamp these when the video archives so that you can click and find out exactly which game you want to find out more information about if it happens to be one that that you maybe don't want to watch the entire video. Anyway. Let's go ahead and get into this. I will just kind of go down the board. Right now, I don't really have anything for the weekday games. I did think about taking UNLV early, but that thing just seems like it's going to keep most likely climbing up. So that's great news there. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Eric asks, so what's Arizona going to be able to do at Autzen? Do you think they score? Well, look. Extremely disappointing performance by Arizona last night. However, I still went ahead and played. What did I get here? I got Arizona or Oregon rather minus 27, and I played over 58 in that game. I just think Arizona's pace is so quick that there's really no reason to play under here. Even though their efficiency kind of sucks, I do think that their pace is legitimate, and Oregon is not a team that I feel like will be bothered by them. I think Oregon will hit some explosive plays in this game. And I mean, I make this thing, where we go here? I make this thing Oregon 50, Arizona 16. So if that gives you an indication of where I think this game is. Arizona is also a team that gets to score late. They do push pace quite a bit. So yeah, for me, it's Oregon at anything under 29. And I would play the over up to 61 and a half. So we are check there. Let me make sure that I put a little check mark here in games that we have discussed so that I don't forget to do them, but also don't want to go over each game twice. So first game we discussed was Arizona and Oregon. Really appreciate everybody tuning into this as well. Mike sounds different than normal. Well, I appreciate that. I will take a look here at the microphone settings. Yeah, guys, I really appreciate you letting that. And here we go. Because we're on a different StreamYard broadcast, I was not using my mic. I was actually using the webcam mic. So I really appreciate y'all letting me know about that. All right, next game we want to discuss here is thoughts on Texas minus 10.5 against Texas Tech and maybe the over 60.5. So I actually would like to take Texas Tech here at 11 or better. I do think this is a game, by the way, if you read the market right now, this is a game that could get there. The offshores have not really posted yet for the most part. And I just think like this could keep climbing. I would like to get 11.5, 12. As far as the over, I'm curious as to what Texas Tech's pace is. I will probably play this under, actually, because I think Texas will look to run the ball more with Bijan. And I just think this could keep going up. I mean, if I get a 62 here or 61.5, I will go ahead and fire on that. It opened actually 64.5, but that only lasted for, I think, 2 minutes, and I didn't get any of that. Wish I did. But Texas Tech is the team that has steadily risen up in my power rankings. They've just looked better. As you guys know, I have Texas Tech over 4.5 wins as one of my season win totals. If you follow the Buds Bet column or the Cover 3 podcast, I think they're going to get there. That win against Houston was pretty big in that. But ultimately, Can they hang with Texas? We'll see. So for me, it is Texas Tech. If I can get the 11.5, if I can get that 62, I will go ahead and take the under on that. All right, so mark that one as discussed. Cool. Next one here. Will Rutgers be able to do anything at Michigan? Is over the right play? Well, I don't know if over is the right play here. Opening line here on this Rutgers-Michigan game is Michigan 19 and 51. I think that the total is dead on. I like the 19. I laid the 19. So for me, I just think Michigan here is a team that can gobble up Rutgers. Now, here's the deal. I don't love laying 19 with a team that's really not very explosive through the air. Rutgers' offense, though, is pretty bad. Let's just go ahead and be frank about that. They are not a good offense. So anyway, that's kind of my concern there with that one. But Rutgers, having a great punter and not being explosive and just not turning the ball over on offense can only do you so good. They're kind of like Iowa on steroids as far as living off of turnovers. All right, Brad B asked about two games. One I really don't have a huge opinion on, but the other one I actually do. So let's go ahead and talk Missouri BC. I popped this at 2.5. I think that Missouri should be favored by. Well, I would buy Missouri up to 3, slightly juiced. So if you want Missouri, I would say go get it. My personal opinion, obviously. I think Missouri can score on Boston College's defense. Think about the teams that Boston College has played so far and their ability to score on BC. Meanwhile, BC is without their starting quarterback, who is going to be out for quite a while. Look, I just think that they go ahead and score this thing. The other thing I like in this game quite a bit, but I couldn't get any of it. It was sad. They opened this thing at 61.5 for the total. It got bet down real fast at 55.5, and then now it's back up to 58, 59. If this thing got back down to like 55.5, I would be popping that, but ultimately I didn't get any, so I'm not going to give out numbers that I can't get. Now, the other question here, Eastern Michigan, kind of a boring game, but Eastern Michigan minus 5.5, I really don't have an opinion on that. I think 8.5 is kind of the appropriate number there. Or excuse me, I would like 8.5 or 2.5. I don't have a whole lot of confidence on those teams. So that's kind of the spread that I would be looking to hit that. Now, interesting here, I do think that there is some wiggle room to play this over, right? I mean, there's 58s, there's 58.5s on the board. I think 58.5 is actually pretty attractive here. And went ahead and played that. I would actually play that, just to let you all know, I would play that up to 61.5. So just me, but I think that is actually pretty legit to take a look at. There's a couple 58.5 out there if you still want one of those 58s. Okay, let's go to some more exciting games here. Obviously, those are not super exciting, but hey, the money spends the same, right? Got a lot of comments rolling in, trying to get the people who jump on early. B Rabbit, let's take a couple games here. Let's discuss a couple. So B Rabbit asks us, Stanford outright, Michigan State minus 3.5. Michigan State defense much better than we thought. Nebraska, while they hung tough against Oklahoma, still lost the game. Would not surprise me if they're a bigger dud than usual. I'm actually not going to be on this one. As you guys know, I've been very heavy on Michigan State this year. I have bet Michigan State in both their games against FBS competition, and also nailed the over yesterday against Miami. And I just don't want any part of this. I don't think Nebraska is that bad. Now, if this got under a field goal, I would consider it. Not going to lie there. But, I mean, I don't know. I just, to me, I want Nebraska and basically a touchdown, or I want no part of this game. Stanford, I'm not going for it all. I think that the way Fresno was able to play UCLA was very instructive. I already played UCLA minus the 4, and to me, like, that's just a no-doubter. I like that game quite a bit, actually, mainly for this reason. Stanford cannot throw the ball all over the yard like UCLA can, or excuse me, like Fresno could against UCLA. I think UCLA can stop the run. Stanford's run defense is not very good, and I just think UCLA could really kind of boat them. All right, we got a couple more things dropping here in the offshore markets that we're not really supposed to reference, but doing it anyway because that's just what we do. North Carolina is one that popped up. Here, I'll go ahead and hide that. UNC just popped up, and I saw an 11.5 hung, which is kind of interesting. I'm somewhat interested in that. I would be on that at 10. 11.5, not going to be taking it, but still. Anyway, just something to note there. And over-under on that one, 63, seems pretty on the nose. But I will be taking Western Kentucky plus the 10.5 against Indiana here. That to me is pretty much a no-doubter as well. Like it just screams an obvious bet. I just think they shouldn't be more than a touchdown to Indiana. Indiana secondary, not that great. And ultimately, I'm all over that. See how that goes for me there. What else do we have? Okay, let's go ahead and take Notre Dame last night. Already talked about Missouri. Any thoughts on Iowa-Baylor and Kentucky-South Carolina? Yeah, actually, I have quite a few thoughts on these two. So let's go ahead and pull those thoughts up. Iowa-Baylor, I think, is an interesting one. Baylor, to me, not a great team. I made it basically. I want Iowa State under a field goal, and I want Baylor at more than a touchdown. So if it gets to one of those, I'll likely be on that. And I also think that I think there's a real opportunity to play the under here. I'm going to wait a little bit. I just think it's kind of one of those things where it should move a little bit. There's 49s out there right now. Well, hell, it's a show. I'll just give it out. Under 49 for me on Iowa State Baylor, I think Iowa State, not an explosive offense. Baylor, not an explosive offense. Neither team is going to be a big-time pace team. Both have either defensive head coaches or even offensive coaches who coach defensively. So yeah, to me that's worth a note there. Now, Kentucky, South Carolina. Right now, I'm just passing. I'm waiting. I will probably end up betting South Carolina if this just keeps going up and up and up. Everybody's real enamored with Kentucky's passing offense, and as they should be. But they got to take that show on the road. They didn't play very well this last weekend, and I need to dig in a little more to what happened there. And then the total I have is pretty much right on at this point. Wyoming minus 29.5 at UConn. This is a sicko game. I want no part of it. I made the error bars on this pretty big. I think when you have a team like UConn, they're I don't want to say unpredictable, but kind of unpredictable. I want 38 with UConn, and I want 28 or better with Wyoming. That's sort of my way of sort of staying away from this game. Cool. What's good, bud? What's up, Reggie? Thoughts on Wisconsin? Yeah, let's go to an attractive game. Wisconsin-Notre Dame. This opened at 3 in a couple spots. It's been bet up to 6.5 in some others. And I just think that is it's a little bit high. I'm going to keep waiting on Notre Dame. I just really want to get a 7 here at 6.5 in a few spots right now. Look, if this touches 7, I'm all over it. That's just what I need to do. But I'm not going to play anything in it right this second, personally. Okay. Yeah, to go a little deeper on the game, how well will Jack Cohn play? I think there's more film on him. Wisconsin certainly knows his weaknesses, I would think, but he also has faced this Wisconsin defense in practice for a couple of years, so he probably has a decent feel, for what they do. But ultimately, does Wisconsin have the weapons? Do you trust Graham Mertz right now? Like, I love Graham Mertz's physical talent. I just don't know that I trust. I just don't know that I trust that. Cool. Get some feedback here on Michigan State and Nebraska. and seeing some people who are Michigan fans tell me that Michigan State is way better. Look, I just think Michigan State matched up extremely well with the two teams they played so far. I don't know that they match up all that well against Nebraska. And I'm certainly not looking to lay the points there. If you guys do, best of luck. I'm not on Nebraska yet, but maybe it's maybe it's time. All right, checking out a couple different things here as they bounce around. Looks like Air Force is taking a little bit of money in the offshore market. It's kind of interesting. Total not doing much at all. Washington State in the offshore not doing much. Colorado State, Iowa. I don't know what that opened at, but I mean, it just feels. Yeah, I can see what they're doing there with that. So no play for me on Colorado State, Iowa. We already talked about Indiana, Western Kentucky. And all right, let's get some more games going here. Sure. Kent State plus 14.5 and Toledo minus 3.5. Well, I'm really glad you asked. I'm actually on one of these and I'm against you in the other one. I took Maryland minus 13.5, and that's still at a couple shops right now. Toledo minus 3.5, actually laid 2 and 2.5 there. So look, I just think that is something to get on. I would play Toledo up to about a touchdown. People may disagree. They played like total crap over the weekend. And I understand that's disappointing. I think that we're about to see this Maryland offense get out and run and really run. And I don't think Kent State can hang with them. Think about the teams that Kent State has played so far. Iowa, Texas A&M, some of the slowest teams out there. This total, by the way, just keeps getting bet down. It just keeps going down. It opened it at what? What was the opener here? It opened at 75.5. It lasted for like 30 seconds, and now it's down to 66 in some places. Got to tell you, like, if this gets down to 63, I'm going to pop that. I think I'm going to take the over. I think Kent State can score a little bit. I think Maryland will score quite a bit in this game. I think Maryland this weekend. Let me see what I have for their projected total. I've got Maryland dropping 42. So come time for the Locks Pod, when these team totals actually come out, you will probably see me firing in a Maryland team total. I think Mike Locksley wants to score some points. And yeah, that's where my head's at with that. Let's talk Ohio State Akron and get this out of the way as quickly as possible. Should Ohio State be laying 50 points to anybody, even Akron? Yeah, they should, actually. Now, again, with some of these games, I don't want to get involved that much. I'd rather play them live or just not play them at all, because the variance at the end is just crazy, and you're dealing with a lot of backups and motivations and things. But guys, I made this line 51. I'll play Ohio State at 45 or better. I guess I'll hold my nose and play Akron at 55 or better. I think the under is kind of worth a look there, but why not just wait and play the under live? You know what I'm saying? If Ohio State jumps out fast, this over-under could easily get up to like 70 or 74, 76 live. Like, why screw with it? I'm just not going to go ahead and play that pregame. Again, if for some reason this gets steamed down to 45, I will take Ohio State. Akron's defense is very bad. You saw the Auburn offense last night, and it looked okay. Not special, nothing great. Not a, like top 10, top 15 type offense. Can't throw the ball. Good running team. They destroyed Akron's defense. Akron's defense is just not a thing. It doesn't exist. So, yeah. All right, let's go ahead and talk. We already talked Kentucky, South Carolina. Again, we'll go back earlier in the show if you want to slide up on that one. Would you consider the under in Michigan State, Nebraska? I think we already hit Nebraska, Michigan State. What is the under right now, actually? No, not really. I would like to have a little bit more. I don't really think Michigan State's defense is all that good. I think Derek King was hurt in that game. But if it got up to 55-ish, I would pop the under. That's just kind of where I am with that. Let's get a question about my hat. Yeah, is this a Pirates hat? No, it's actually I think it's Puma. So probably shouldn't be giving those folks free advertising, but I got a big old head and it fits my dome pretty good, you know? So that's fine. Thoughts on Marshall/App State, the Thursday night game. I really don't have a play here. I'll give you guys my numbers. I want to play App State at 4 or better. I didn't get any of that action when that opened, so none for me. Marshall collapsed late in that game against East Carolina, and then they got to go play a really short rest game after a long fourth quarter game on Saturday. Got to go play on Thursday. That's a tough thing. I want double digits on Marshall if I'm going to play them. Over under, I made it 50/60 as far as my buy points, and we are at 56, so nothing there. If it hits 60, I'll probably go under. Not that App State's offense is particularly explosive, but that's something I'm looking at there. Thoughts on Ohio and Northwestern, and any thoughts on Hunter Johnson getting benched? Well, Hunter Johnson's not any good, and neither is his backup. But yeah, I do have some thoughts here. Actually, I really think that it, like, I might end up playing Ohio plus 15.5. Did you guys watch Ohio against ULL? ULL pushed them around, but I think physically ULL, at least offensive line wise, is just as good as Northwestern is, man for man. Now Northwestern's got a better, ultimate, like their one kid's a stud, but everybody else there is not particularly crazy. I think that's one that I'm looking to play, but I'm not looking to rush into it. Like who in the right mind is looking to bet Ohio right now? By the way, on the offshores, UCLA just popped. If you guys are interested in taking another piece, or perhaps in taking your first piece of that one, but I just think I'm going to wait. I mean, if Ohio goes to 14, okay, probably still be on it. But why mess with it? Maybe it goes to 8, maybe it goes to 17, maybe it goes to 18, something crazy like that. Maybe they get steamed. To me, that's just one not worth messing with at this second. One I did end up playing, by the way. I think Colorado plus 15 at Arizona State is worth a look. I just like they're not that bad. They've played Minnesota team that was playing pretty well, and they had that crushing loss to Texas A&M. Arizona State, I'm just not buying totally on that, and they got a lot of things going on there. So I think the 15 there with Colorado is worth a look. Herm Edwards is a big time favorite, not really somebody that I want to get involved with. All right, so thoughts on Texas Tech? We already did that. Cool. Let's go ahead and take. Where's this at? I know I had a question. Oh, all right. Let's take West Virginia and Oklahoma. What do we want to do with this? Well, I actually think that this line is pretty good. No surprise, big game. I'm not always on those. But I do think there's a chance here to buy Oklahoma. I mean, if this gets down to 14, I'll probably fire on it. West Virginia, can they score? They had that super long run against Vatech last night, and their defense is not bad. But if Oklahoma clicks, I think they have a gear that West Virginia just really can't play with. But something doesn't look right with Oklahoma, right? I mean, Rattler, we've talked about this a lot with Tom Fornelli on the show. To me, that's something that is kind of needs monitoring. But if it gets down to close to 2 touchdowns, I'll probably go ahead and be on the Sooners, even though I don't really want to be backing those guys right now. If it gets up to mid-60s total-wise, I'll also go ahead and be looking at that. Cool. So we covered that one. Him on the board. Let me see. Let's go ahead and take Iowa, covering the spread against Colorado State. Just get this out of the way real fast, guys. I really don't. I don't see value here. I want Iowa at like 20 or better, and I think I'd want 28.5-ish on Colorado State, which kind of tells you where I am with this game right now. It's not a game I'm actively looking to get involved with. I don't know how quickly Iowa will pull its starters. Colorado State has been very up and down this year, and I don't think that Colorado State has a real chance to win the game or anything. But who knows how quickly Iowa State pulls the starters and who doesn't. Let's go ahead and take FAU here. Question about FAU traveling to face the Air Force Academy. Look, I want FAU at a touchdown or better, or I want Air Force at under a field goal. Right now, either of those are options. Just letting you guys know kind of what my buy points are right here. Cool. And what else do we have? Got a couple more. Colorado is absolutely that bad. Okay, we'll see. We'll see. Let's take this one. Or excuse me, not that one. We already talked about Fresno UNLV. I basically said I want UNLV at 5 touchdowns. Here's one I played. San Jose State plus 1.5 at Western Michigan. Western Michigan in a letdown spot after beating Pitt. Dylan, good question. Yes, they're absolutely in a letdown spot. But even factoring that in, I still think Western Michigan should be laying over a field goal against the San Jose State team that just had to travel to Hawaii. And you're like, yeah, they're in San Jose. That's still a decent travel. And a game got over really late. Then they got to go back and travel. Now got to get back on the road again and go travel to Michigan. I'm comfortable laying anything under a field goal here. I think Western Michigan should be favored by like 4 or 5. So NC State plus 12 against Clemson. You think they're just going to sit here? It just keeps going up. At this point, I'm going to wait on it. But I will be on NC State against Clemson if this number sits around this or continues to climb. If I see it start dipping too much, if it goes down to 11-ish, I'll have to just fire because I don't want to risk it dropping down to single digits. But like Clemson's offense doesn't look very good. NC State physically, I think, can hang with Clemson, or at least just not get abused up front by Clemson's defensive line. And that one to me is something that is very much worth taking a peek at. Cool. I need to take a couple looks here. All right, already have that done. That done. So, one that I'm definitely going to go ahead and bet now, and I think it'll climb. Maybe I'll play out of it later in the week if I find out who's playing. I'm going to take Louisville minus 2.5 at Florida State. I just think that Florida State right now with its offensive line, guys, is not what it needs to be. In the preseason, their offensive coordinator said they had 7 or 8 guys who they felt good about. One was kicked out or quit the team. One is out with, I believe, an ankle. One is out with a back/a knee. And another kid has a broken leg. And another dude has not really gotten all the way back from the offseason surgery that he had. So that's 5. If you had 7 or 8, and you subtract 5, you saw it, on Saturday against Wake. I said it on Cover 3. Watch the starting lineups. I said on Nolecast as well. Watch the starting lineups. I mean, if Robert Scott's not in there, if Maurice Smith is not in there, play Wake Forest on the alternate line, plus the 200 something. And I did, because to me, that was just common sense. I do not believe that FSU has ACC caliber linemen available and healthy to play in the games they're playing right now. Thoughts on Georgia covering a 32.5 against the Fighting Bartons? Honestly, I think it's decent. I think there's a fairly good shot they do catch it. Sorry, I was getting text there. But I mean, does Georgia have it at some point? Sorry, I was typing in the name of this guy that's just texted me. Did they cover it against that? Yeah. I don't want to go against Spartan, but I will. Georgia minus 31.5. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Georgia, I think, is going to score. What do I actually make this game? I make it Georgia 45, Vanderbilt 5.
kind of hard to score 5 points, but then again, like, is Vandy actually gonna score? We'll see. First half, maybe the better play here if you guys want to. We already covered App State. People want to know about Liberty. Liberty, I think Willis is fine as a QB. I like him. I don't like him quite as much as some other people. But the rest of Liberty's team hasn't looked all that great. And the squad they played yesterday was terrible. So I don't read into that too much. I think the line is kind of where it needs to be. I do expect everybody to be all over Liberty. So if that keeps going up, I will actually be on Syracuse, most likely. All right, let's go ahead and take Utah State game here. I laid the 9.5 with Boise. I really think that, first of all, I've been on Utah State in, 2 of the last 3 weeks, I think, maybe all 3. Utah State can score. Utah State goes fast. Utah State's defense is terrible. And I think Utah State, I just think Boise can drop, 42 on them. And Boise's defense, to me, through the air, it's not that bad. Their run defense is pretty poor, but I don't think Boise's pass defense is all that bad. Utah State is not a great running team. Alabama first half, rinse and repeat every week. It's hard to say no to that. But the books have adjusted to Alabama in the first half. I will say this. I think we have one more week of folks not really knowing just how bad Ty Keys is. Starting quarterback for Southern Miss is out. Ty Keys is playing. Ty Keys is not ready to play in the FBS as a freshman quarterback, I don't think. I know people have seen him in person. He's talented, but very, very raw as a recruit. I just think, do you want to lay what do you want to lay with Bama here? Do you really want to lay 45? I would say that's questionable. Would I play Southern Miss team total under in the first half? And it's going to probably be a 0.5 or maybe a 3 heavily used to the under. I will play that. If I get a 3 minus 160 to the under, I'm probably going to take that. Southern Miss, Troy shut them down last night. Southern Miss had 1 field goal and they had a defensive score. So I will go ahead and play the under Southern Miss first half team total against Bama. I know that's oddly specific, but All right, Oklahoma State against Kansas State. Let's go ahead and touch on this one. All right, line currently sitting at 8, and to be honest, I think you got to go ahead and play Kansas State here. There's an 8.5 out there. I don't hate that either. I don't know why Oklahoma State is laying points to anybody. They have a ton of guys out on offense. Kansas State, I look, I'm not going to tell you that I feel good about Will Howard. I don't think he's a good player. But still, why would you not go ahead and lay and take the points there with Kansas State? I think that's just fair. Kansas State could keep this game ugly. Both teams have pretty nice defenses. I think under is not the play here because of the possibility of turnovers and the fact that the number is already really, really low. But go ahead and give me the 8. I think they can actually keep it close. And there's a couple 8.5s out there. So if you can get that, all the better to you. Thoughts on the total in Wake UVA? Yeah, my thought is that I'm annoyed that Vegas got this so right. I mean, they really accounted for it. If this gets to 70, I will probably play the under. But both these teams can score. Both these teams can play with a little bit of pace. And UVA's defense I'm out on after seeing it over the weekend. This is an important one. Let's go ahead and touch this. So Houston minus 20.5 against Navy. For me, that's a no. I actually went ahead and played Navy, and I know Navy's bad. I get that, right? But I think there's something going on here. Clayton Tune didn't play in the last game for the most part, right? Now, Holgerson's been kind of weird with the comments on that. They beat Grambling just fine. I've adjusted Navy down somewhat, but Navy plus 21 for me is a play. I think that's something you can go get, and they're going to play that game at a slower pace. Also, I will note that Houston has not been playing at a super aggressive pace so far this year. So if that gets to like 52, 53, I'll probably take a piece of the under there in that game. Dylan Okenfuss asked an interesting question. How often do you go against your PRs or play a game where your number is quote unquote on market? That's an interesting question. Never. Now, if I realize I missed something in making my power ratings, I will add that in, adjust it, and then play it. But if my power ratings, say what they say, I should be using all available information I could find in making them. And if they don't, then they don't. Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk LSU-Mississippi State here. This is another one that people want to know about. So let's go ahead and bring it up. LSU-Mississippi State. I played the 4.5 with Mississippi State. LSU's offense did look better. I'll give them some credit, but I don't think that they're really all the way there yet. LSU's defense, we'll see. I'm not really buying in just yet. The other thing I think is really pretty good in this game is the under 58.5. To me, that should be played. I do not think either team is going to score 30 points. So obviously, if I like it, I like it. I don't know what else to say here, right? Like under 58.5 is pretty solid. Cool. Dominic D says LSU Mississippi State feels like one to avoid. I could see that. Buffalo minus 11 at Old Dominion. Yeah. The 11. I like the 11. I think Old Dominion's real bad. I don't think Buffalo's any good, but I do think Old Dominion is pretty bad. So I went in and played that. Jacob asks, thoughts on Cal Washington? Can you take no one? They both look awful. Sure. Yep. And let's just get everybody here a number that you can find. There's 8.5s. There are 9s out there, and the total is 58.5, 59, and 57. So I think the total is, a little bit high, to be honest. I don't think Cal's going to score that much. Cal's offense, I don't really trust. I don't really trust Washington's offense that much. By the way, I just misstated the total here. So that's why. I was like, why the hell didn't I bet that already? If that was the case. So let me retake that take. I think the number here is fine, which is, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9. The total though is 45, 45.5. That I actually think is probably more of an overplay at 45. Yeah, at 59, it would not be. Obviously, that's a little crazy. Cool. Let me see. Texas A&M Aggies at Arkansas Razorbacks at 6. Let's go ahead and bring this up. This is the first game that Arkansas is going to be playing where the opposing defensive line is going to be able to give them problems. And I do think that Arkansas is a decent offensive line. But like Texas' defensive line doesn't really scare me. Neither does Rice or Georgia Southern. And I think A&M has some guys who can play in space. That's why this number is what it is. If this number ticks up, if this number gets to 7.5, I know it was 7.5 earlier in the day. Again, I'm trying to give you guys numbers you can go get. You know what I mean? Like I didn't jump 100 to 415. I'm not going to give you a number from 2 o'clock. That's just, I don't really believe in doing that. I'm trying to give you stuff that's, consistent with what we have. Can Arkansas throw the ball? Really, so far, they have not had to throw the ball. Colorado could not throw the ball, and we saw how well it worked when they were trying to rush the ball only against Texas A&M's defense. So to me, that's a bit scary. still, I'm in no rush to lay the Aggies here. I think the total is pretty appropriate. All right, let's talk USC and Oregon State. I think the number 12.5 is pretty good. It's fair to me. It's probably going to rise up. If it gets over 14, I will likely look at Oregon State. But USC with Jackson Dart is a good team. I think Jackson Dart is actually a very talented quarterback, and I like it. So, pass on this right now. But again, at some number, you got to be willing to take Oregon State, right? We already did Wyoming-UConn. We already did Cal Washington. We already did Old Dominion. We already did LSU. We already did Akron. Okay. Here, let's take some really sicko games. Duke minus 13.5 against Kansas. Well, it's not fun, right? Duke, Kansas 13.5. It's a no play for me. I would want Kansas at like 18. I would want Duke at under 12. So for me, that's going to be a no play there. As far as the total, I do think that the under here, if it keeps going the way it's going, maybe worth a look. I'm not playing it yet, but I think the under, it could be worth a look later on. BYU-USF. USF had a little quarterback change late in that game, and I think they'll probably run the ball a little bit more. It's a weird road trip for them, but 22.5 is too many for me to lay. If it gets down under 3 touchdowns, I would go ahead and lay it with BYU. USF's not any good, but like I'm really not in a rush to just jump on BYU here. And I think the total is mostly appropriate. Yeah, this is a good question here. Hey, why not thank Bud with hitting the like button? Last week, I think we had 157 likes and no downvotes until I joked about it on Twitter, and then some people hit me with some downvotes. But yeah, appreciate you guys, watching this. We'll probably go a couple more minutes here. If there's any game I've not covered yet that you want to know about, please do ask me about it. Let me see some other stuff here. I already mentioned Iowa State under. Here's one for you that nobody seems to be asking about, but I want to talk about it. All right. Louisiana minus 12 and over 52.5. Played them both. I think it's like exactly the right thing to be on there. Got a question about Tennessee and Florida. Been kind of a weird situation here with Tennessee and Florida. I bet Florida on the look-ahead line. I didn't post it, so I'm not going to be able to count it in my record, right? I bet Florida minus 17 on the look-ahead line. I think if Tennessee gets to like 22, 23, you need to consider it. But the Swamp should be packed, so give them a little extra home field advantage. It should be a good game. Florida's going to want to work on throwing the ball around a little more after how well they ran it. Tennessee will try to play fast as hell. They have 1 million possessions. I do think you need to adjust Tennessee up if they're going to play Hooker and not Milton, because Milton is not good, and Hooker is not good, but he's not terrible, and there is a difference. Milton is not just missing wide open guys, Hooker's not missing wide open guys all the time. So that is, something to think about there. What else here? I already mentioned LSU with Mississippi State and the under. Did I mention Miami, Ohio Army? I played the under 53.5. I think that's probably good for 2-3 more points. Charlotte against Middle Tennessee State. Yeah, I'm waiting to have Charlotte steam, and then I'll go ahead and take Middle Tennessee State if that gets up to, 4-ish. But we'll see. At this point, I'm not really in a rush to take MTSU. I took the over in Ohio-Northwestern. I think I already mentioned that to you guys, right? Over 46. I'm just reading out all the stuff that I have. Oregon under is not one I'm on. I'm actually on the Oregon over. I'm just seeing some stuff here come in on the comment section. Dominic D wants to know, did I already talk about Indiana and Western Kentucky? If I didn't, Western Kentucky plus 10.5 is what I took. I think that's a really nice number. Indiana secondary to me is a little bit suspect. Granted, Western Kentucky is not a great defense. in itself. But I think Western Kentucky will have success though in the football against some of these Big Ten teams. That's not a knock on the Big Ten. I'm just pointing out some of the Big Ten teams that they're facing, Indiana and Michigan State coming up. I think they will find success chucking the ball around and will be able to score some points there. Let me see what else. Oh, here's one I played that's going against me, right? Can't have every number I give out on the show go in my favor, and they won't. Although last week they did do pretty well. I bet Minnesota plus 30. Or excuse me, Bowling Green plus 30. All right. I just think that's something there that we need to take a look at. Bowling Green is not as bad as I thought they're going to be in the preseason. They've improved every week. Minnesota's coming off that huge road win. They have a look-ahead spot here to their Big Ten schedule. I don't factor that in a ton, but it's not a nothing burger, right? I think Minnesota will likely get some other players in. Bowling Green is just not that bad. They're not good, but I just don't think they're a bottom 5 team in the country. And I think Minnesota should be laying, like 26, not a 30, but obviously the number went against me. You can get a 32 out there now, so maybe I'm missing something. We will see. Okay, let's take some questions here from Dylan Hyatt, because my wife just texted me. She took the kid to her mom's, which is down the road from us. So I have a couple more minutes here. Should be fun. Virginia 4.5 at home against Wake. Yeah, I'm annoyed by this one. I really thought this was going to dip down to something else. I thought I was going to be able to get -3, 3.5, and I didn't. I didn't get that. I may end up playing Virginia here anyway. I got to see Wake a lot this weekend, obviously, because they were playing FSU. I was watching that game on one screen while I had Bama and Florida and a couple other ones on another screen. And I think Wake's a good team. Hartman's not a bad QB. Roberson's really good. A.T. Perry, the receiver, was looking nice. And, man, I got to tell you, like, FSU's defensive line handled Wake just fine up front. FSU had some problems in the secondary and the linebacking core, which we thought they would. It's why we went ahead and played Wake -10.5 on the alternate line for big odds, or one of the reasons. And Wake's defense is good. Fine. It's not great. It's not amazing. UVA has scored on defenses that I think are just as good this year in Illinois and North Carolina. I don't hate the Virginia play here. I thought this was going to move elsewhere after UVA got whipped and after Wake did the whipping, and it just hasn't. So a little bummed about that, but I'll probably end up being on UVA anyway. Mark Angelo, we already talked about Tennessee and Florida, so just go ahead and scroll back a little bit. We will definitely timestamp this afterwards. We already talked about NC State. Let's see, what else do we talk about here? We talked about Georgia. We talked about Colorado. We discussed Buffalo. We discussed Bowling Green. We talked about Kansas State. We talked about Maryland, Louisiana. We talked about LSU, Missouri, Navy. God, that's a hold your nose game, huh? We talked about Rutgers. We discussed Western Michigan, Toledo. Let's see what else. UCLA, Stanford. We discussed as well. Did we talk UAB-Tulane? I wonder if I'm missing something here on UAB-Tulane. I don't know. Maybe I am. My number said take Tulane, and I'm wondering if I'm missing something, because this just hasn't moved at all. It's sitting there like a lug, and I'm skeptical on that one. Washington State, Utah. Let's go ahead and take this one out in the Pac-12, and we'll mark it as done. Washington State getting 13 at Utah. I want no part of that. I think that's actually a pretty good number. Utah has had some difficult luck, and that's kind of it. They haven't played that great, but Washington State has also played terribly. And I think there's a difference. So for me, this is kind of the right one, or the right number rather. What's the biggest thing you've noticed so far that your numbers are not picking up on yet? Well, if I knew it, I would put them in my numbers. Let me try to think about this. Some things that I've noticed that I've had to manually adjust. There's been some big quarterback injuries early on. Like if you don't adjust Boston College down pretty significantly, going from Kowski to Grossell, you're going to probably be betting Boston College this weekend. And maybe that's the right side. Who knows? I like Missouri. But those quarterback injuries early on, Southern Miss, Akron are important quarterback injury adjustments, I think. Like Cato Nelson is not good, but he's not terrible. That's one I just think that is worth noting. Is that moving? Well, I think it's moving. Huh. Yeah. Okay. Cam Rising elevated Utah's offense. I think that's fair. Thanks, Bud, for YouTube viewer time. No problem. Let's go ahead and take this Hawaii one. Hawaii minus 17 at New Mexico State. Hawaii's defense looked a lot better last night, but they do have a hard time scoring when traveling to the mainland. I don't adjust their scoring really when traveling to the mainland. If you have better numbers on that, then, I mean, you're probably more accurate than I am. I just adjust them a little bit travel-wise. I do think it's more difficult, for them rather to travel to the mainland. But as far as my number on this, I basically had a pretty big split here. I don't know what's going on in New Mexico State quarterback-wise, which makes me a little bit hesitant to be fired on this. I want Hawaii at 14 or better, which means I'm probably not going to get Hawaii, just being upfront with that. And I want New Mexico State, over 3 touchdowns, which I'm probably not going to get that. As far as the total here, I actually think over is worth a look. Again, if you know what's going on with New Mexico State quarterback. I still think it's worth a shot, though. 57, I took a small piece. Well, I said it, so it'll be in the column. But tempo-wise, Hawaii should help us get there. But what happens to quarterback for New Mexico State? Like, that's why I'm not crushing this. I think it's just one that you need to tread carefully on. What did Tom learn about his numbers from next week? I'm not sure. Tom's watching the Bears game. Did the Bears win? If they did, then we need a Bud plus someone podcast. I agree. Maybe soon this will actually be a little expanded format. Maybe produced a little bit more professional. Maybe out of a studio. All that's interesting. Thoughts on Coastal UMass over 66? Yeah, so I actually do have a thought on this, and my thought is basically that I accidentally bet the over 66 at open, and I wanted to bet the under 67.5. I just hit the wrong button, and so I ended up double betting the under 67.5 on Coastal UMass. Here's why. Okay, and this is important. Number one, Coastal is not a team that I usually want to take and bet crazy overs on because you have to adjust their pace. UMass has a quarterback issue right now, and they were down pretty heavily in that game, right? Like, let's pull up that UMass and sorry. Oh, that's right. Don't apologize. Yeah, so they were down decently. They came back to put it to two touchdowns. The kid for UMass was fine, but a lot of that yardage was in garbage time, 22 of 38. They ran the ball okay, but Eastern Michigan did put up 42 on them. UMass has been a tempo team. However, I think it's important to note here, like with the backup quarterback, are they still going to be playing super well? Super fast? I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Coastal is a team that if they get a big lead, though, they will shut it down. They're not trying to just dunk on people. UMass is not a national spotlight game. Coastal probably needs to get some dudes in to work on them. I think under 67.5 is worth a look there. And yeah, I had to double bet it because I accidentally bet the over on the 66. Jamie, we already talked about Boise, Utah State. I think Boise here is the play. I'll also likely be on Boise team total. I think Boise will chuck it all over the yard against a fairly bad Utah State defense. And I don't think Boise's pass defense is quite as bad as their run defense is. And so I think they should had the advantage here. I went ahead and laid the points and expecting a bounce back game from Boise after their disappointing loss to Oklahoma State. By the way, Oklahoma State's got a pretty damn good defense this year. Like, I know their offense is poor, but their defense not too bad. Wrapping it up a little bit, Chance, appreciate you coming on, asking about Tulane. We already discussed that. My numbers say Tulane. Something's up here to me. Like, we just saw Tulane, and I didn't get to finish the end of that game, but I was getting greedy to see what we could get here. Tulane, it looks like it's actually coming to me. My spotty senses are up. I'm just going to wait on this a little bit. Sometimes you just have a feeling, and that's kind of the feeling I have here. What else do we have? Anybody have any more games we want to discuss? We already went over Notre Dame, Wisconsin. I just don't trust Wisconsin's offensive skill players, and at this point, Graham Mertz has to prove it to me a little bit. Notre Dame, nice bounce back against Purdue. I mean, they didn't lose, obviously, but like nice bounce back against Purdue after the close game against Toledo. Florida, we discussed pretty much. Richardson with the hamstring. Is he going to be ready to go? Emory Jones played fairly well against Bama. Very clear that Florida was holding some stuff back, I think, to save for the Tide after two very easy games in the opening week. But still, for the column, I can't put Florida in there because I didn't post it. I have Florida minus 17 on the look ahead. Tennessee will play very fast. You need to make an adjustment, in my opinion, for Tennessee playing Hooker over Milton, as we already discussed, because Milton is just not accurate. Like, Tennessee's offense can get guys open in space, and Milton just misses them. Like, for me, Milton, it doesn't matter what opponent he's playing because he's just not – he can't hit wide open guys. Hooker is somebody that I want to like kind of play against better defenses and play on against good, kind of poor defenses. I bet Tennessee this weekend, first half in total, when I realized Milton was getting benched or hurt or whatever you want to call it. Probably hurt. I don't want to accuse him of getting benched. But do you trust Florida secondary? I guess you probably should. They played well enough against Bama to win the game, in theory. I'm not going to get involved at the current number. So, what else do we have here? Reggie wants to know, what day and time are you going live again this week? Yeah, let's talk about that real fast. First of all, can you guys mash that subscribe button? It'd be pretty cool. Notifications, turn them on. Let's turn on those notifications. Let's get that stuff going. Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern. Wednesday, I actually have a childcare day. We have a situation where my wife is not going to be here, and our normal childcare is unavailable, and I have a whole lot of vacation time built up, and I usually don't take vacation days during the football season, but here I just went ahead and burned one. So Wednesday, I'm off work. I'm just going to take my son, and every time on I-4 we drive down, he sees that big dinosaur park. So I've never been there. I don't know if it's good. I don't want to make the drive and then have it kind of be lame, but if it's good, maybe he'll like it. He's 2, so that'll be fun. If not, we'll just go to like a trampoline park if it's raining, or I don't know. He'd like to swim the golf club and go do that. So we'll have some fun there either way. But are we live on Wednesdays? I don't think Cover 3 is live on Wednesdays anyway. And then of course Thursday for the Locks Pod at 11. Went 11 Eastern. Went 6-5 this weekend in my locks and hit the Utah State money line. So I felt pretty good about that. Here's one from Dylan. He wants to know about Memphis minus 4.5 at home against UTSA. UTSA can run the football. Memphis run defense a little bit suspect. And I made this thing basically, I want UTSA at more than a touchdown. I want Memphis under a field goal. This is right in that range where I'm just not going to get what I want. So for me right now, it's going to be a no play. Contrasts and styles is here as far as tempo goes. If they hang something really, really high here, like I didn't get this, so I'm not able to bet it, but this came out 72.5. That's a clear under, if this gets back to like 68, I'll fire an under. NC State is down to 11 at some spots. Yeah. All right. Give me a second here. All right. NC State plus 11.5. Really appreciate the notification on that, guys. Again, I was hoping that would go up a little bit more just because of Clemson's reputation, but 11.5 it is. That will work. Is that it? We're about an hour. Really appreciate everybody coming on the show, and we will talk to you all next time. Next Sunday, we'll be able to do the show. It'll be awesome. And yeah, catch me tomorrow, 3:00 Eastern on the Cover 3 podcast. Follow me at BudElliott3, like it says right there on the screen. And also 11 o'clock on Thursday on the Locks Pod. Take care, y'all.